Robbie and Graham, it's good to be in person with you finally here in Berlin. You are the facilitators and founders of Emergence Brotherhood. And Robbie, you're also an ISTA faculty. And Graham, you're also doing psychedelic facilitation. And so the work that you've done at Emergence has touched my life quite a lot because I've been through 3 containers with you now. I've been through the initiation as a participant, I've been through as an assistant, and I've been through the 5-month mentorship that you do. And so the intention here of this conversation is just to give a little bit of a window into Emergence Brotherhood for anyone who's on the outside and curious about what's going on here. What is the work that's really being done? I'm going to start by just asking you to introduce yourselves. And can you tell me a little bit about the path that you've walked as well to be here?
Oh, okay. So my name's Graham. The path to get here is 11 years I've been on this path. And I really started at the deep end. I was living a very meager existence at the time. I had all the trappings of what would appear to be a successful life, being a successful man. I think I had a good relationship. I had plenty of friends. I had just been promoted and was working in London, and it felt like all the pieces were in place. I was doing everything that I had been told would lead to whatever it was. And that was the issue that I had, was that what was that? There was no meaning, there was no goal, there was no real clear sense of what I was stepping into. And I just thought, holy shit, I can't do this for 10 more years, 20 more years, 30 more years, sat around marketing boardroom tables, trying to convey a sense that I was engaged and interested. So at the same time as I was searching for meaning, I was feeling my experience that really narrow, really small. There wasn't much life. And then I saw a couple of friends one day in a pub for a reunion. The two of, I don't think they'll be disappointed in me saying this, but they were 2 of the most miserable people I've ever met in my life. However, I walked into the pub. It was the Eagle in Cambridge. It's really grand, opulent Cambridge pub. And there they were, like pillars of light. They were luminescent. They were really vibrant. And I said to myself, I need to understand, like, what the hell is going on here? It was almost blinding. And I found out that they had been taking ayahuasca together for about 6 months, and concurrently I'd been following this path of watching lots of documentaries about plant medicines. Bruce Parry, he's a British documentary filmmaker who would go and live with tribes and find out how they lived, and sat with the ayahuasca tribe. And I think it was probably about 6 weeks later, I had an Italian Rastafarian shaman in my lounge, shaking a rattle, serving us ayahuasca. It was a real baptism of fire. I really went in at the deep end, and I've been on a journey of working out like who I am, essentially, on a deep identity level, and coming more and more into contact with who I am at my core, so my true self. And that's the journey that I've been on, and this phase is a kind of concurrent teaching and transmitting at the same time as doing my own work, showing up for myself, my relationships, my business, my friends, my colleagues, and starting to grow more and more back into the being I would have been had I not gone through all of my life's challenges. If I had had those points of initiation, and trust me, I've had lots of initiations in my life. Just now I'm going back and doing some of the ones that I wasn't offered in my childhood and in my teens and in my adulthood as well.
Beautiful. Thank you. Robbie?
Over to me. Yeah, there's definitely some similarities in my story. I was not brought up into a kind of a spiritual home. A lot of emotional intelligence wasn't modelled. Things were just brushed under the carpet. Led me to a life of being a product of my environment, drink, drugs. In hindsight, I can see I was very disconnected to myself. And very blinkered vision, Western, capitalistic, consumeristic upbringing, business, success, being a man, got to prove myself. And due to good fortune and a lot of hard work, very English kind of attitude, I managed to create a lot of the success of what I thought would make me happy. I had the sports car, the partner, I had a property portfolio, money in the bank, successful business. And there was a despairingly empty feeling inside. So at that moment, I realized no amount of external gratification will make me happy. And it was a catalyst for my journey inwards, which was very challenging. Everything I thought I knew came crashing down. All my ways of interacting with other people, I could just see the masks, the falsity in it all. And I wish I could say overnight I figured it out, but I didn't. And there were many other initiations along that path, but this was about 12 years ago. And I started off with kind of sat there in this office watching my summers go by. I was in Sydney and I was like, what am I doing here? Why am I doing this? What am I chasing now? So I packed in my job and wanted to help people and didn't really know how, and I was very into sport and physicality and exercise, so I started doing PT, and within a year I realised it's very little to do with the actual personal training, and it's all about the mind. So I got into NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, which then led me into life coaching and meditation and yoga, and carried on meandering my way down this spiritual path. And about 6 years in, I came across ISTA. I did my first ISTA, and one of the deepest, most transformative weeks of my life, and gave me lots of tools and awareness around how I was turning up, what relationship I was in with myself. And while I was there, I heard whispers of Haydn Temple, or this mystery school in New Zealand. I was in Melbourne doing this at the time, and lo and behold, the whispers called me in, and I found myself at Haydn Temple about 6 months later, and I went for a 6-week soul initiation journey, which turned into an 18-month, huge, life-changing. It was deeply, deeply powerful. Really met parts of myself which hadn't been loved, that hadn't been nurtured, that I'd shamed, I'd blamed, I'd repressed. It was deeply challenging and deeply enlivening at the same time. And that's where I met Graham for the first time, 2019. And we had no idea of anything that was going to come around Emergence Brotherhood or any collaborations. And at the time I would have been like, no, there wasn't like an immediate yes, this is it, brother. We still had a lot of work to do. I still had a lot of work to do before I could even dream of doing something like this. But that was the first whisper. And Haydn is at the core of a lot of what we're doing, like a lot of that mystery school work, a lot of the circle technology, a lot of pulling back the veils of how we want to be perceived, or how I want to be perceived. And the deconstruction that's necessary of certain personality traits to allow deeper resonance to emerge, and from that place really meeting myself and meeting other people. So a lot of this journey for me has been working with the disconnection that I felt from a young age. And I repeated those patterns. I was an imprint of my environment, and a lot of drink and drugs till I was about 30, hiding from myself. And when I put them down and sort of went through the social awkwardness and learned to meet myself and meet other people, it's been a huge part. And trust has been another huge part of my journey. Really, not a cognitive, yes, I trust you, but in the cells, a deep rewriting of trusting life, trusting brothers. Yeah, it can be terrifying. And it's something that I long for at the core of my being, to allow this mysterious ride to guide me and not keep pushing for what my will or an agenda wants, but to listen to how life wants to life me.
How would you describe Emergence Brotherhood to someone who's never heard about it before and doesn't know what it is?
It's a tough one. We get asked this a lot because it's a bit mysterious, like what actually goes on. And that's intentional. We do want to keep a little bit behind the veils, so to speak, because we want people to come with a freshness to the experience, not with some imprints or ideas of what's going to happen and this, that, and the other. But Emergence Brotherhood is a rites of passage journey of profound transformation, if you really bring yourself through soul initiation, where men have the opportunity to explore wholeness in an evolutionary 7-day training. And how we do it is through embodied experiences, authentic expression, radical reflections, conflict, and shadow work. We guide and support them to break through limiting beliefs, survival strategies, coping mechanisms, to allow them to transform their challenging life experiences into their unique soul gifts and their own distinctive leadership style. And it's needed. We need more men that are heart-led, that are discovering their unique gifts, that are on purpose, that are feeling fulfilled, that are being of service to something greater than themselves. And the ripples of transformation that will happen through their friends, their family, and their community excites me.
Can you tell me more about that? I want to know, where did Emergence come from? What was the birth of that? Was the inspiration?
There's kind of two strands. The first strand is Bruce Lyon held his one and only men's work training in Prague in 2018, and all of a sudden I kind of heard and felt this call from Bruce of we're going to do men's work with a real deep focus and emphasis on soul. And for me, it was like breadcrumbs. It was like there was something really raw and wild and deep calling me. I had not felt this before. Everything else had kind of had felt sort of like, okay, of course, but this felt like primal. And I had this feeling of, okay, I need to do this. And I just had this sense of like, I've never experienced such a closeness to other men in all of my life. And I had longed for that my whole life. And there it was. It was available right there in front of me. And I remember that feeling of when we were starting to close it, he actually offered the syllabus to us. He said, this is my one and only men's work retreat, and I want to offer this syllabus to anyone in this field who feels the call to bring this work to other men, because it's needed, it's necessary. You know, that we can actually source support, camaraderie, love, closeness and kindness from each other. And then that was where I finally heard the call to go to Haydn, and that's when I meet Robbie.
Yeah, Haydn Temple was profound experience for myself, to be able to meet parts that really hadn't been loved. And a lot of the technology that they use there, through ritual, through circle, through working with conflict around authentic expression, the reflections from peers, is at the heart of what we're doing at Emergence. It's really a journey to wholeness. So, yeah, it's been a lot of the inspiration behind Emergence. the work with Ista, the work with Haydn. And when I came out the other side of this 18-month stint at Haydn, I knew that I wanted to bring this work out in some form. And it just felt so aligned when I met up with the brothers afterwards to bring this kind of technology into all male containers. And it still feels like it's the beginning. It still feels very infantile. So
There's a word you used that resonates with me a lot, that is rite of passage. Because in my experience of the program, I really feel that I went through a rite of passage and went through an initiatory gate. And I'd love to hear you speak into what is the difference between a rite of passage and a retreat or a program. How are those two things different?
That's a really good question. For me, a retreat is a retreat from what? So what does one need to leave or escape from, and why? Why would I want to escape from my life? For most of my life, I did that anyway. So what difference is a retreat? This isn't an escape. It's not a way out. It's a way through. This Emergence Brotherhood, for me, and perhaps I can speak for you too, it's a way of life. So many people are seeking to escape, to disconnect, because they come into contact with something extraordinarily powerful within their own being. What we're really seeking to do with rites of passage is to put people back in touch with their fundamental needs. Their need for connection, their need for attunement, their need for trust, like to be able to rely and depend on other people, even better if those people are also on the same path, stepping really powerfully with each other. You don't get that in a retreat. You only get that in a rites of passage experience. So this, for me, is the fundamental difference. We're not escaping from something, we're actually coming into contact with something of a magnitude that would transform somebody's life, not for a week, not for a day, not for a weekend, but for their life.
I'm going to pick it up from there because I really love what you've put down. And it's the same as the time that we were at Haydn. It's not meant for an experience that you go back to your old way of being. It's like business as usual afterwards. But it's meant as a seed for civilization change. So it's not just this week-long peak experience, but it's going to create a deep impact on your life and the life of people that you come in contact with. So there are radical shifts that will come through this rite of passage. It will be challenging to look at different aspects of yourself and to get mirrors held up to you, to break down the conditions, the layers that are in the way of my truth, my uniqueness shining.
How do we create a container that feels conducive and safe enough for us to go into those places that you're describing, to go into our grief, to go into our loneliness, to go into the parts of ourselves that we aren't normally showing or may not be very willing to go there under normal circumstances? How is Emergence a right field to allow that?
Yeah, thank you. It's a challenging North Star to hold. It's like, especially when we're sort of sat around here, it's like, oh, I don't know about that. I don't know these people. And it's natural. We come in with that. We come in with our guards, the layers, the protectors, and they have served us. So there's a lot of wisdom in them. It's not so easy to walk around here open-hearted, the mean streets of Berlin or whatever city you're in. But the guards are there for a reason, and they've served us. And especially when we're growing up, we've needed them. It's been too challenging for our young part to hold what's come in. So there's lots of wisdom there. And we create an incredible contained space where we hold this in the middle. As at the hearth is this longing together. And Graham and I, maybe unlike some other containers, experiences that people go on, we really bring ourselves forward as well. And we have a team of brothers that have been through at least one initiation, if not several, and on the mentorship. But we're holding this at the center. So it's a culture that we've created. So naturally, people might come in who don't know anyone, feeling a bit kind of nervous about the experience, had their experiences of life, which now have the guards up. And when they see the courage of the men coming forth and bringing themselves, it creates permission. It's also being modeled to them, like the possibilities, like the direction that we're longing to go into. And we have a series of rituals which pull back the layers, the guards, to whatever degree and whatever pace they want to go at. The participants want to go at. So there's nothing pushed. We simply have invitations. And these are a series of rites of passage. So each of these different experiences will be meeting different gates of your heart, allowing you to feel when you're ready to pull back that gate, to allow the other men in just a little bit more. And it's just gradually a little bit more, a little bit more. And some of these rituals will really crack open the heart. And there might have been something, this gate, I'm never going to open this gate to anyone. And then when it opens, the amount of energy, the amount of power that is released into the being can be through tears, can be through excitement, joy. It's one of the most under-celebrated expressions in, I think, human beings now. A lot of time we're in the darkness looking at what's wrong, but yeah, celebrating together, joyous together, while also going through the trenches of all the stuff that's been stuck in my life. So we work with different aspects of the psyche of our being. We work with the inner child, we work with emotions, we work with shame. And the surprising thing is, after, say, working with the shame, is we kind of ask the group, like, where's your energy levels? A lot of people are high, like, 8, 9s, because it's been burdening our soul for so long. And now I don't have to hold it alone anymore. And Graham touched on this longing for togetherness and how a lot of our stories are actually very similar. It might be slightly different, but the energy underlying it is similar. So by bringing ourselves forward, by having the courage to share some of our experiences, we are collapsing the separation, which is allowing this feeling of belonging to land deeper into our being.
One of the kind of possibilities I think that we hold is that the environment itself, the container, the group, it somehow offers an opportunity to be in a different kind of environment for a week. And what I mean by that is that if we say, for example, are prone to self-hatred, self-shame, self-sabotage, it's always because at the moment before that process begins, we come into contact with something that's vital to us, to our being, that we felt like we weren't allowed to have for whatever reason in childhood. So we carry that environment around with us wherever we go. This container offers a possibility that we can create enough space, enough distance, that not only can we see it, but we can heal it, and we can also reveal it too. The shame is a very toxic burden as a process. It's an attack on the self, and the self is your truth. Myself is my truth. So we're always creating these rituals, these processes, so that not only people can see that, but they can heal from whatever that process is that stops them from really being truly who they came here to be. And when men come into our containers, they get the sense of like, okay, this is not a retreat. This is a possibility that I can go really far, deep down into my underworld to find the treasure, whatever that might be. And it's different for everyone. But this is what we're offering. This is the space that we're holding.
I want to talk about the power of the container and the brotherhood and how that can support us to go on this journey.
So if you've got 30 men with all of the conditions of their lives, their past, the probability that they will continue to somehow reenact that past over and over and over again. You've also got a bunch of people on the other side who don't have that problem, or have healed that issue, have come back into wholeness or remembered. And then conversely, on the other side, there's a bunch of people who've also worked through quite a lot of stuff. Perhaps they've mastered or surrendered to certain kinds of gifts or energies or powers that they may have. And then everything becomes a kind of revolving set of mirrors. And there might be people that you resonate with, and then there might be also people that you're a little bit resistant to in some way, shape or form. That's the beauty of the container. So we're constantly able to see where we are and also where we're not too. So these processes are specifically designed to activate that, not just cognitively or thoughtfully or consciousness-based, but also to really bring that into the body, because the body is where a lot of the solutions, a lot of the opportunities somehow are stored.
Yeah, the lone wolf. You know, as a male body, I was out there in the world doing it alone. And I created success. And for a while it felt good, but then what I realized is it was creating more separation from my brothers, from my peers. I didn't really have anyone to celebrate it with. I didn't have anyone to commiserate with when things weren't going well. And I can see that was an imprint from my childhood. I didn't feel very safe at home. It wasn't a cognitive understanding of this, but the neglect, emotional neglect that I received meant that I became independent. I was going to do it. So coming into containers like this and really going into the trenches of some of my sticky, icky stuff and having brothers there still loving me and not abandoning me, collapsing that story and actually being there for me and supporting me through it was a deep cellular shift in my trust. And that was one of my biggest wounds around trust, really trusting. Yeah, my mind can trust and I can say I trust you and all that stuff, but will you catch me if I fall? Are you going to be there for me to pick me up when I'm at rock bottom? Will you really celebrate me in my success? I think one of the greatest gifts of the containers that we create is the reflections that we get from the brothers. Graham touched on the mirrors. So it's beautiful to see where I'm at, where they're at. And if someone's really shining and they've got a certain piece that we're exploring, it's like, wow, thank you. An old part of me would have been like, how can I compete? Or how can I bring him down or get myself up? But now it's like, wow, thank you. You're shining. I see this. And I'm going to drink that in. And I've now had a cellular transmission of how it is to be like that. So I can learn from you. I can learn from my other brothers. And when we've got 30, we've had up to like 42 men in a container before. That's a lot of different brothers to learn from. And we really celebrate the different flavors of masculinity that come through Emergence. We're not trying to do one cookie cut, this is it, this is how you be a man in the world. We want you to find your own unique experience of being in a male body, what it means to be a man to you from your experiences of life. And the beauty is we can learn from these other brothers and their experiences of life, which can fill me up, which can allow me to be more integrated.
There's this piece I feel around the mutual support element. How you just said, we're uplifting our brothers when we see them shine. It's not about being jealous and tearing them down. It's really giving them the space and using that as inspiration. And there's this piece of the culture at Emergence that has become so ingrained in me around uplifting other brothers and celebrating them and supporting them. And I see this thread that it sounds like it came through from the first program with Bruce that you did, where he offered the syllabus to you. And in a sense, I feel like the syllabus was offered to me. Like, I haven't felt that there's anything held back, but actually that I've been supported to be in my fullness as long as I've been on the path here at Emergence.
Yeah, there's an expression that comes with Haydn Mystery School. It's to the one who gives everything, all is given. there's a kind of generosity of spirit, and I think a lot of the men in the field and also on the team feel that too, is we really seek to reveal everything, to reveal as much as we possibly can. And one of the lovely reflections that people often get is that they actually are really like golden, shining, radiant beings and have no clue. They do things that are profoundly touching to other people, and they don't even really realize or notice. You know, how often on my formative kind of the first part of my journey, I would do or say something and someone would say, hey, you know, that thing you do, it's really incredible. And I'll go, what? So there's also this, there is this wave of water. It's almost like a kind of tidal wave sometimes that comes through our trainings too, of not just grief, but on the other side of that, gratitude as well. So also what's happening in these trainings is we're putting people in touch with, I guess what they call in Diamond Approach is essential qualities. And they are these naturally occurring resources and aspects and elements of being human, which a lot of humans have either forgotten or chosen to forget in some way, shape or form. So really, what you're describing, your experience, it's the kind of current of this emerging masculine spirit, which we're seeking to kind of unplug so that it can flow more freely in the world. And that's what we see with the men who do complete the training, is they go out into the world and there's this kind of generosity of spirit, the generosity of their innocence and their purity and their kindness and their compassion.
Yeah, ultimately we care. We genuinely care about the brothers that are coming through. And the places that we can go together deeply touches me. Gives me real hope. And it makes it very easy for me to give everything that I know away. Yeah, and that's, again, modelled through the container, and people feel that. And that's just a rewriting of a lot of my beliefs, a lot of the men's beliefs. So to give it all away, no expectation of return. Another piece that we work with is around synarchy, the sharing of power. And knowledge is power. An easy way to hold your power is not to give away. So really sharing everything. Sharing the celebrations, the glory, sharing the struggles, sharing our hearts, what's alive for us, where we're struggling, where we're bleeding. It allows the brothers to feel the impact in their body, in their being, in their heart, and they take that out themselves. And the collaborations that are coming through from the men that have been through Emergence are exciting. It's like, wow, so much life force, so much creativity, so much power held, especially when there's 40 odd men coming together. It's like what we can do in the world, the impact we can have is huge, especially when we group our resources instead of trying to do it alone. And we're aware it's a week-long initiation. We're not expecting everyone to be completely transformed and that's it for the rest of life. You go back out to the world and things come in and change, and we've got the challenges of life, but they've had a flavour. And then it's up to them how they decide they want to interact with Emergence from there. Because plenty of the brothers stay in contact. It's not just a week-long experience where they meet people and that's it. Some people do that and that's okay, it's their choice. But if you stay in contact with the brothers that have been through these initiatory gates, then the potential is huge.
Speaking of the wider world, something I'm feeling very inspired about is what feels almost like a wave of men's work. So many people I know are going to these places in groups together, and there's so many different kinds of modalities and different aspects of inner work that brothers all over the world are touching on. And I feel that each one has its own place and has its own essence. And I would love to hear around emergence. What is the unique essence that emergence is offering?
It's soul initiation work. We're not necessarily saying that you'll go through your complete soul initiation in 1 week, but I tell you what, it'll give you a rapid evolutionary boost on that path. That's one thing I can virtually guarantee. If you show up with your heart, with your body, with an open mind, you'll be able to really accelerate your path wherever that longing is going to take you. So this, for me, this soul piece is what differentiates us. We're not teaching you or training you or telling you how to be a man, for example. That's not part of our agenda. Our agenda, if we do have one, is to create opportunities for you to come into deep contact with whatever those questions mean for you. So a process of really being in that question and ultimately living whatever that answer might be for you. There's not one kind of unique masculine energy or another unique masculine energy that we all need to subscribe to or we all need to buy into. Part of the reason why we need to do this work is because of that problem, because of that kind of bullshit about what makes a man, what constitutes a man. It creates separation, it creates division, it creates confusion. And it also often takes people away from their core nature. So really, we're offering an opportunity to put people back in touch with their core nature. I have my form of masculinity, Robbie has his. We potentially have 42 different kinds of masculinity in that room. And when that orchestra, each one of them is singing their unique note, then we know that we've got something special here.
So soul initiation is really a transformative journey around awakening the soul and integrating it into the body and mind. And at Emergence, we really look to unravel what's in the way of that and to enliven the soul purpose in the human experience. We've touched on this already, but a lot of our experiences are through the body, to rewrite on a cellular level. So although Graham and I will kind of set a scene and share where we're going in this experience, people are in the experience and really feeling it. So they can actually notice how they interact with the energies that we're invoking, to see what their unique relationship is with that experience. And they can see where they're falling short and see where they're shining. And then they can also rewrite on a cellular level their experience, which might be in a missing experience. And one of the unique things that we do at Emergence is we utilize some technology from Haydn, from Bruce Lyon, also from ISTA Level 2 that Bruce introduced, around the cross technology, meaning we're working with consciousness and, say, the body or density or the animal body. And one of the tragedies of religion is that in their attempt to make us more spiritual, they've made us less animal. And there can be a lot of power held here. Because it's been repressed, suppressed, been told it's less than, the sins of the flesh. And it might not be our experience, but chances are, if we go back the generations, it's in the DNA somewhere. And we're not just enlightened human beings, we are animals. And by pushing away our animal nature, it doesn't make us more civilized. In fact, a signature of how far we are along on the path of our soul initiation is how deeply integrated the height of our divinity and the depths of our humanity. So that's one part of the cross, and the other part of the cross is the masculine and the feminine. A lot of the work I did before, working with archetypes, would use Robert Moore's model with the king, the lover, the warrior, and the magician. And there wasn't any space for the feminine in any of that. And the soul knows no gender. So to allow aspects of our most, probably with Carl Jung's anima animus, anima is the most underdeveloped part of our feminine in the male body, to allow that place and some love, to be nurtured, to be developed, to be evolved. It's often in male bodies one of the biggest pieces that we need to work with, and it's forgotten about in a lot of men's work. It's a huge oversight. So to allow this part to be nurtured, to be filled up, so we're coming from more of a whole place, more of a soul place, and core of the word healing is around wholeness. So to miss certain aspects of our being, it's not going to lead us to this path of wholeness or soul. Because ideally what we're doing once we've got these parts developed is what's coming through the middle. What happens when they're all collapsed so we're not in the polarity? What can emerge through the middle? And what we've noticed from my experience and from feedback of many of the men that come through the containers is this is reflected to them by the people that are coming into their lives, both the brothers and maybe their partners, the caliber of people, the aliveness of people, because they're not outsourcing something from their partner, from their friends. They're much more integrated themselves.
Yeah, you spoke about this aspect of wholeness and how we're not just looking to become more masculine or better masculine. We're looking for wholeness, and using this archetypal energies of the masculine and the feminine and the light and the dark is such an integral part of finding wholeness. And for me, I have found that the more I develop one polarity, the more prominent the other polarity is. The more one grows, the more the other grows. And that's something that was so powerful for me about Emergence, because I wasn't just working on my masculine. I was working on my masculine through my feminine. And parts of the program where my feminine energies were flourishing was actually some of the most powerful teachings for my masculine. And in that way, they started to hold each other more and more. And I'd love to hear more about the search for wholeness that we're going on in Emergence and how we're working with archetypes in that.
Yeah, I love what you shared there. It's really on point. I had a very similar experience, and often men will come to say, "Oh wow, you're really masculine. How do I develop my masculine?" I'm like, through your feminine, often, and at the center of all of these archetypes is love, is heart. And this is where everything meets through the heart. I mean, even if we look at Graham and I, we hold some polarity. And that's the beauty of it. One, there's permission to be your own unique flavor of masculinity. There's two different flavors here. So it is not like a couple of brothers on the warrior path or a couple of brothers on the magician path. It's actually, okay, in our case, it's, maybe a light masculine, feminine, dark masculine, feminine. These are the kind of places that we default to. And I've had a great transmission of light masculine, light feminine from Graham, so I can learn that in my being. And I can become more whole. I can learn from him. I can see the way he holds, how he responds to things, which allows me to drink in that. Be like, oh, amazing. And just to take an example of kind of the polarity that we're working with, if we take the dark masculine, which might be, say, the warrior in other models, for this dark masculine to be in its greatest flourishing integrity, it needs to really hold the aspects of the light feminine. It needs to hold the innocence. It needs to be able to hold that purity in his heart and then deliver his dark love, deliver his directness, deliver his clarity, deliver his taking no bullshit. But it's got to come from the heart. Like honesty without the kindness is cruelty. So to deliver the truth with heart, it's a real gift. And the thing is, a lot of the time that's been seen as not okay, pushed away, because it's a dangerous energy. You know, if it's out of integrity, it can lead to abuse. It can lead to, and we see enough of the atrocities in the world where it's being modelled on the collective. It's still there. It's not integrated fully. So it takes courage to explore some of these energies. It takes courage to explore that, and we're going to get things wrong. And it's okay. We're doing this together in a container to learn together. There can be a terror of getting things wrong, which I completely get myself. So being in a container, and we set up different rituals and experiences so you get to explore the energy. It's not like you've got to get it right first time out there in the world. It's like learn together. See when someone's like really vibrating something, like, oh wow, yes, I want to, that's drinking that in. And noticing within yourself when it doesn't feel good. It's like, oh, okay, I can do better there. That's okay. I'm learning.
Can working with our archetypes like this help with shadow work? Is that one of the elements as well, that we're able to find and work with shadows through that?
It's the core of what we're doing. Yeah, definitely. Thank you. It's a beautiful point, because often if the energy's not been nurtured and loved within, it's in the shadow. It's holding a lot of power. And I know from my own experience of relating, when I've been in partnership with female body, until I kind of woke up, then I was attracting the same partners, the same energies, which is very similar to my mother, which the universe was still giving me to work through until I made a change in my being. And some of my greatest gift has been from my partners, from relating, where, especially when I kind of woke up, I was like, oh wow, instead of outsourcing this from my partner, yeah, okay, you do this for me, I'll be the masculine, I'll do the direction, do this, and you just go along with what I say. And it's boring as well, to be honest with you, and it's just repetitive. So once I saw her ease and flow, I was like, oh wow, I don't have to be leading, I don't have to be directing, I don't have to be on all the time. I can be more allowing life to life me. I used to think it's just about the masculine and the fire and the pushing. And now I can see how much beauty there is in the water, in the softness, in the slowness.
Yeah, so with these archetypes, these two kind of like masculine, like feminine, so the presence of consciousness, I would say feminine and masculine consciousness, and then also this light and dark, feminine and masculine, the presence of embodiment, male and female. Often one person is over-identified with one or the other. And what that does is it constricts and it limits their capacity to be truly alive. So I know in my life, I spent most of my life in this light masculine pole. So I would say this kind of the presence of masculine consciousness at its highest expression, but at its lowest expression, someone very disconnected. So kind of above emotions, like above being in the body. So not being aware at all really of like what's going on in the body. And if the body were to all of a sudden become activated, it would be like coming into contact with something that I couldn't control, I couldn't contain. And when I say I couldn't contain, I don't mean I couldn't shove it down and suppress it. I could do that. But I mean actually to hold the magnitude of coming into contact with the opposite energy, which is this dark feminine energy. So really feeling like the wildness and the kind of eros and the emotion of being human too, of feeling my fundamental human needs bubbling up like a volcano almost. And this is also something that we're really working with, is this possibility that we can hold these energies. Often they've been suppressed, shamed. We've been told in one way, shape or form, this is not okay. It's not okay to be emotional. It's not okay to take what's yours or what you want. It's not okay to be compassionate or kind. You know, so we're often holding on to these energies, we're pushing them down, suppressing them. This is a place where a lot of this energy can bubble up. It can really come to life. And because we're repeatedly inviting people to go back into these places, it's not like a one-shot deal, you missed your chance. We're constantly revisiting. It's layered, more and more layers, peeling back the layers, what's getting in the way. And the thing is, it's quite often surprising for people, because often people have this idea of who they are. It's a kind of top-down sort of look at themselves. Oh, I'm this person, I'm that person. A lot of the time it's bullshit. A lot of the time it's not true at all. The memory, the explicit memory, is quite a unreliable narrator of one's experience. So what we're doing is we're working with the body. And the reason why we work with the body is because it's implicit. It doesn't tend to tell lies. In fact, it tends to be very honest. And it really means that we can come into contact with, I think, what Robbie called our humanity. So then we can actually be here, not above emotions, but be here. And for people who are already here, but perhaps they're lacking a little bit of the inspiration of divinity, there's also that possibility that they come into contact with somebody who has that access. They have that access to source, to spirit, to soul, whatever you want to say up here, but they have trouble bringing it down there. Got somebody who's down here, but they have trouble bringing it up there. It's perfect. There's always a configuration of whatever's required, whatever is needed. And the great thing is that every man at some point gets to be that being who's holding the key somehow for someone else's experience. And rather than making it about them, it's the act of giving and receiving. And that's something that's really important at Emergence Brotherhood, is receiving. So of course, to the one who gives, everything, all is given. But men are learning how to receive support, learning how to receive love, learning how to receive reflection. These are all really critical and core qualities and skills that ideally we would learn in our childhood. We would learn continually that ability to self-reflect on a deeper level, without the interruption and the interference of shame or self-sabotage, self-hatred, whatever it might be.
So we're talking about unearthing and being able to hold these parts of us, these shadows that we don't normally get to see because we're either consciously or unconsciously pushing them down. And one of the pieces that was really important for me in my initiation was the work around conflict, because conflict is not an energy that I've had a chance to practice comfortably much in the world. And I would love to hear you talk about how Emergence actually embraces working with conflict in safe ways.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Conflict wasn't something that I was comfortable with either. I got brought up in a household where there was some violence, and I then associated any kind of conflict with violence, which wasn't okay. So I would avoid it. I spent 30 years plus avoiding it, doing whatever I could to not be in conflict, until often it got so much in my being like a kind of pressure cooker that it would just kind of pop out, and I'd like be outbursts over something so small. So I can really understand like the tension that used to come in my body. And what we do at Emergence is, as you touched on just then, is working with opposites, working with tension, the beauty that can come through the tension. It's incredible. And we have a day of conflict, same as money. It's like things that aren't really gone into. And this isn't conflict with boxing gloves. This is more delivering truth. We call it dark arrow. It's an arrow from my heart to your heart. And that's the intentionality, is it's a gift. It's not to sink you, to make myself shine more. It's a gift to you. And often it's something that's between us. It's getting in the way of me being able to love you more. Or it's something getting in the way of your soul shining even greater on this planet. And we need more of this in the world. We need people that are willing to give us open, honest reflections and feedback. Like, where am I thinking I'm getting away with something, but I'm not? Or where am I not seeing something which is really getting in the way of me? And my brother can support me by saying, hey brother, there's this thing I'm noticing, and delivering it. And then, as Graham touched on then around receiving love, this is dark love. And like, can I actually allow it to impact me? Can I allow my heart to shatter into pieces, knowing that when I build it back up, it will be stronger? And it goes against a lot of the conditioning, a lot of societal's expectation of how to be in contact with people. We don't necessarily tell them about these things, or when we do, often it can come in with a kind of energy which isn't really from heart to heart. So let's bring it. Let's not pretend it's not going to happen. Same as why we bring in money that day. Okay, we've built up trust, we've built up brotherhood. Let's bring in things that's what's going to be one of the main things that collapses it. Money. You know, sex, money, power, they all hold so much energy in our human experience. So it'd be an injustice for us not to bring those energies into the container, to allow us to explore with them. So conflict is a big piece, money's a big piece, and it can really be at the core of fractures between brothers. So we bring it to the light, and we also create a way that we can bring this in the world. And it's like this becomes a new way of being. It's a community where we're really open and honest with each other. And I stand for that. That's refreshing, that's invigorating, that's going to really support our soul initiation journey.
Yeah, we like to refer to it as harmony through conflict. And I want to pick up on a point that Robbie was making that feels really true is when I look out into the world and I see what's happening, I get the sense of, on the one hand, there's people who don't really want to be in conflict. They want to be in the harmony. They want to bypass the conflict, and everything's okay. It's great. There's no problems here. We're all on a journey. Okay. And then on the other side, there's this conflict without any desire for harmony, domination, just cruel, punishing, attacking, seeking to exert control. And in that tension between the two places is love. So somehow coming back again to this point of holding tension, that tension is just connection waiting to happen. If we hold that possibility, then the veils lift. The tendency to create separation can stop. We can really deeply support each other in these processes, and conflict can sometimes be the most transformative part of the retreat for people.
We're talking about these elements around our shadows and around power and conflict, and these elements that show up so much in the real world. It's not something that just exists in this container, but the work that we're doing in such tangible ways comes out. And I would love to hear about that. Maybe it's your vision for what Emergence is trying to do in the world, but how does this relate to the wider world?
For me, it's around landing culture. About taking this experience into our daily lives. So working with conflict, working with money, working with these different archetypes, working with the emotional body, with the inner child, not just in this week-long experience, but how does it change me? How does it change the way I meet myself, and how does it change the way I meet other people? And some of the greatest reflections of how far you are along this journey and the impact the work's made is by the way that the world receives you. The way that people reflect back to you, like, oh wow, okay, it's happening, I'm changing, I'm evolving. And a great reflection for me, which is kind of reflecting through the container as well, of the evolution of our beings through Emergence Brotherhood's being, is the trajectory of the journey. The first few we did, it was kind of like we were really in the mud, figuring it out, and what even wants to come through, and now there's a backbone, and there's some beauty coming through in the stillness, and we are creating more space for stillness, for this creative spark to emerge in the space. And by bringing in different mythology and poetry, it's kind of these ancient myths that are writing the storyline of emergence, which is writing the storyline of each and every one of our DNA. The poetry, which some of it's 800 years old. It's been spoken God knows how many times, is in the fabric of the Emergence Brotherhood, weaved into the journey. And the creativity that's coming out the other side when the brothers are coming together with this shared experience, with this shared technology of how to be in the world. Then, it's exciting what can be birthed in civilization when we are turning up differently, when we're being really authentic, raw and real with each other, from greater contact to our essence. It's exciting. And I don't know where it's going, and that excites me as well. Allowing this mysterious journey to reveal herself as we go.
Yeah, if I go back to the piece around environmental failures when we're growing up, is that if I look at the world at large, there's billions of people who are carrying around their environmental childhood failures with them and just reenacting that in different ways over and over and over again. When I see somebody or I feel somebody, I notice somebody that is different somehow, I'm really curious. I want to know more about you. I like to get closer to you and to understand what your experiences are. I like to think that with over 300 men have been through the initiation or the various different things that we've offered since 2022. I'd like to think that these guys are carrying this healthy environmental experience that they've received from Emergence Brotherhood out into the world, and that, say for example, 30 people in their lives have been touched, at least, and then maybe 30 more, and then 30 more. And I think this is how civilisational change happens on a more kind of vibrational level. So yeah, this is why I do it.
Yeah, it's so powerful that it's not what we say in the world, it's how we walk through the world and how we hold ourselves in the world that actually inspires people and actually makes a difference. So moving to closing, are there any things that you just want to communicate out to brothers who are interested in emergence? Any other things that we haven't touched on?
I would just love to maybe close the space with a poem which feels alive. We touched on this epidemic of loneliness. And when I first heard this poem by Hafiz, I could feel how much it touched me and how much truth there was in my being. So, yeah. Don't surrender your loneliness so quickly. Let it cut you more deep. Let it season and ferment you as few humans or even divine ingredients can. Something missing in your heart tonight makes your eyes so soft, your voice so tender, your need for love absolutely clear. Don't surrender your loneliness so quickly. Let it cut you more deep. It touches me to think that this poem's been orbiting the planet for 775 years. And yeah, a lot of what we're doing isn't new. It's remembering a different way of being. The loneliness has been felt for millennia. So like a lot of the other energies we work with at Emergence, a chance to come back and really feel it, to connect to the core of our being, to connect to the core of humanity, to connect to the core of all time, to our essence, remembering.